We hadn't shot well in the last 6 months.
They get knocked out. Yep. These state. Okay. These state be quick to do it.
Hey.
Go ahead and call the meeting order and we'll start to get us on our housekeeping stuff. First of all, I'd like Miss Nancy, if she would say a prayer for us.
Father, we thank you for this time to come together. Father, we just thank you for wisdom in doing what we're trying to do for this county and hope that it'll be a process. It'll be something to help the county grow in a better way. Father, we just thank you for all these individuals that took their time to come out tonight. And Father, we just thank you for everybody having safe travels home. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. For which stands nation just for all.
Thank you.
Now.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I hear a motion that we approve the agenda. Have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Agenda's approved. Now the minutes, approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Thank Miss Cheyenne for doing this for us. She did a great job. Wish she was here so I could tell her to her face. I'll be sure to relay that message.
Yes, sir.
Is there any questions, any deletions, any additions? To the minutes as they were presented?
Move to approve.
We have a second. All in favor? Ayes have it. All right, now we're to our presentation on types and applications of zoning. Ms. Nancy, would you introduce our guests?
Sure. Jim Moore and Kyle Gilly have come they've been very involved in Greenville County. And actually, to be honest, they were a group that's formed in Greenville County next helped us form our group in Lawrence County. But they've been very active in zoning and the types of zoning. So one of our things that we were supposed to do is to learn more about the different types of zoning. So I've just asked them to come speak to that and give us information and, you know, maybe kind of some of the things that they've dealt with in the part of zoning and stuff that they've been involved in. So guys, however y'all want to present or talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
We've been involved with zoning basically since 2015. In our organization and our group. Zoning is pretty much the initial parts of zoning is defined in the state code, Article 6. And it identifies where the ordinance should start, how it should be what kind of requirements are around each classification. Each county can put the zoning classifications they want. I don't think there's any limitations. Greenville County has somewhere between 12 and 14 different zoning classifications. They have agricultural, they have RR1, which is one property, one house per acre. There's another one, RR3, which is one house per 3 acres. RS, which you start getting into the subdivision types, multiple group developments or subdivision types, whether it's apartments, townhouses, they have classifications for each. Then you get into service industries, there's 3 of those, 2 industrial ones, and 2 or 3 commercial ones. Each one defines what can and cannot be done within the zoning district. Generally, the zoning districts that are most liberal, in other words, can have the most activities in them without being restricted, are in agricultural, RR1, the areas that are generally rural in nature. You get more detailed classifications when you get down to the apartments and condominiums and subdivisions and things like that. Our experience is primarily around the rural areas. That's where we are. However, we are familiar with some of the other regulations. I don't recall whether the state sets the way you can do zoning. However, in Greenville County, there was 3 ways. One is by what's called referendum. In other words, you take your precinct, you put the zoning request on the ballot, and if they get more than 51%, that precinct becomes zoned according to whatever was on the ballot. Another one is called referendum, which in Greenville County requires you to have a petition that gets 10% of the area you want to get zoned signed, which starts the process. Then there's a process whereby the county gets involved and has community meetings to share with the public what zoning is about. And then there's a process whereby they have to put together petitions whereby 60% of the landowners and 60% of the land area by owner wants to be zoned. And once that happens, it goes before our county council, and the county council approves or does not approve the zoning. In Greenville County, we were discussing on the way here, it's only been done once. Because it was Greenville County, because of all the regulations they put together, which there's a debate about whether they needed all those regulations. It took 2 years. So the public, which is the public way of zoning, is very reluctant to get a large number of people together to hang in there for 2 years, complete the zoning. Yes, what happens when you do that is there are people get zoned that don't want to be zoned. Because remember, 40% may not want to be zoned, or not want to be zoned the way it was decided. However, there is a process by which you can change the zoning on your property by going to county council, and county council will approve or deny your application. The third way is simply county council deciding they're going to zone you. That had not been done since 1994 in Greenville County because of the backlash from zoning large areas of the county. In Greenville County, the middle section of the county is zoned primarily. The northern part and the southern part are not zoned. Greenville County, 2/3 of the county is not zoned. The county has started zoning by declaration, I'll call it, from the county council in a couple of instances. But it was only whenever someone came in and asked that they would be zoned. There are folks that have views of zoning that we found are generally incorrect because of the word of mouth of what people think it's going to restrict everything I can do. I can't put new windows in my house, or I can't put my garage up, or I can't put a swimming pool in without getting county approval. It depends on how you write the zoning requirements. As I mentioned, the more rural ones are much more liberal, so there's very few restrictions. However, in areas where there's apartments or subdivisions, then you start seeing more restrictions, like can't put a swimming pool in your front yard, for instance. But it depends on how you write the regulations. It's generally up to the county to decide how they write those regulations. We in Greenville County have just recently tried to change our regulations, something called Unified Development Ordinance. It was written by our staff, county staff, and an outside firm. However, it shows that there's a bias towards development. Clearly a bias towards development, so county council has rejected it. So it depends on who writes these ordinances. My particular view is it needs to be a balanced group. You need representatives from each interest be writing these things. So you get something that makes sense. Otherwise, you get one that's all no rules whatsoever, or you get one that's full of rules that no one wants to follow. And believe me, believe it or not, that can happen very easily if you don't have a balance some way. I mentioned RR1, RR3, which is again, 1 house per 3 acres, RR3, 1 house per 1 acre, RR1, or agricultural, which is 5 acres and 1 house, are pretty liberal. You can do about anything you want to do. Of course, there's the building standards everybody has to follow. There's the setback standards that everybody has to follow, like how close the building can be to it. But you don't have them telling you can't put a swimming pool in your front yard, okay? Or what kind of businesses you can have in a rural area. I mean, people work in their house. And you can work from your house without county being involved. You do it from your apartment, that's a different story in our county. So it depends on how you put these together. And as I say, it's pretty much how you want it, depending on the people putting it together. Sure, go ahead.
Driving down here this afternoon was so nice. Here we are driving down Lawrence Road, pretty countryside everywhere. It used to look like that where Jim and I live. What happened? It just became overwhelming. And before you know it, a Dollar General was built right across the street from one of our other partners in this zoning. What's that? How do you get, there's some pretty farmland everywhere. And all of a sudden, here would come these 50 house subdivisions with the bulldozers and just, whoa, we wanted to be out in the country. And so we learned, well, the only way you're going to stop it is get some zoning. What's young didn't know about zoning. So we started finding out. And I understand right now in Lawrence County, we don't have a zoning ordinance. You don't have anything really. So you've got a good blank habit. You can really maybe influence some people to get some things you want. I recommend you spend plenty of time on it. Because if you don't, you're going to have willy-nilly development out here. And I hope I'm not insulting anybody, but they're going to build subdivisions and shopping centers just in the middle of nowhere. And so the only way to get control of it is to get some zoning. And I want to emphasize one thing my buddy Jim said. You will find some people hate the idea because of misunderstandings. This thing you talked about, well, this is going to give the county opportunity to come in and look down our throats and tell us what to do. But I don't know how Lawrence County will be, but Greenville County has not got time to come out there and see whose garage is where they, they don't care about that. We were zoned, what, 7 years ago, 5 years ago?
7 years.
Yeah, 5 or 6, 7 years ago. Nobody has ever come to my farm to want to know anything. I don't know, that doesn't mean it wouldn't be this way in Lawrence, but I want to emphasize what Jim said. People have tons of misconceptions. I also want to emphasize that if you don't do something, you will lose control totally, like we did in Greenville County.
We have people call us because all of a sudden there's an Amazon big warehouse going up in unzoned areas. You all know what I'm talking about, next to their farm.
Yeah.
Or somebody with horses on one, where if it weren't zoned, somebody could put a subdivision next to it with all the kids and 4th of July and shooting off fireworks. Or the subdivision people complaining because out in the rural parts of the country, a lot of us like to go target shooting. Can't imagine the people, when the subdivisions show up, they start complaining about that. And they call the cops come out. Not a real good use of police out in, now that makes sense if you're in a non-rural section. But, you know, I've got 20 acres. Why would they care? But I'm sure Lawrence County is very similar. Where I live, once a week you'll hear gunfire. That's the rural lifestyle.
Right.
Questions? Go ahead.
You talked about the amendment, the referendum process.
Mhm.
So you do that by precinct,
Yes,
and when that precinct votes to approve zoning, are they approving zoning, or are they approving a specific type?
specific type of zoning for the property. Generally, you want to keep it all similar. You know, unless you've got a situation where you got a growth corridor like 385, you might want to put industrial stuff along that. And then move the apartments or any of that more dense areas away from that. But yeah, you can do that. Whenever we did our zoning, they only gave us 3 choices, RR1, RR3, and RS. We didn't have agriculture at that time.
And who defined that?
Whenever, go ahead.
It was a county ordinance. There's been a Greenville County ordinance on zoning for many, many years. And like, I don't know if Jim said it or not, but the zoning by petition where the citizens got together and decided what their zoning should be hadn't been done since, you know, maybe never.
Never, I don't think.
Never had been done, and it just sort of like, we went down to the county and talked to them, they said, what? You want to do what? Well, yeah, it's right here in the ordinance, so they helped us, and they were helpful, but it was a brand new venture for everybody. Even the county administrator and the people in the planning commission, it was a whole new thing for all of them, and we couldn't, I would say we had a lot of help from them. A lot of help.
But in Greenville County, this all happened 7 years ago. The last time any area zoning, which means multiple properties being zoned, was in 1994. That's the reason they had never had the experience. It'd been almost 20 years since they've done any area zoning. But before that, in 1994, they zoned large portions of the center part of the county. Around the city, well, anything north of, you're familiar with Highway 418, north of 418 is all zoned.
Understand, see, y'all got together and got a small portion of the county in a certain location. And y'all went out and got the landowners to agree,
Yes,
and then y'all took it to county council.
right.
Okay, and you were successful.
Yeah,
We're the only ones that have, well, there's one other group that has managed to do it, but they're a much smaller area. But, yeah, since 1994, only two groups have done it.
yeah, it was amazing the amount of explain
Educating.
to people. We had probably 5 or 6 meetings with over 100 people attending. We'd do it in a church in this area or a school auditorium in one area, you know, to give the locals their time to get there. And
Yeah.
people just don't. And it was, I would say, 90% sentiment against it when we started. And then you would just explain what it really was, and then some of the thinkers would start thinking about it, and they would say, well, yeah, I don't want a Dollar General across from me. You know, I wanted to be in the country, that's why I came out here. And so people, I don't know, did this, but we didn't start petitions or really asking for signatures for probably a year while we were just trying to educate. So, and what I understand from here, and what I saw a little bit is Lawrence County doesn't even have any ordinances or anything to get you guidance, so you're gonna need somebody from county to get right up next to you and really figure out how you gotta do it and how it's gonna work. But you can do it, I mean, you gotta do it.
And
And do
don't use the Greenville UDO.
it.
That's the new ordinance they wrote that's been rejected. It was written by the staff with a big bias towards development. Don't use that one.
Yeah. Most of the counties have a zoning ordinance you can download right from their county government website. Around Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, all of them have it. In fact, Spartanburg has done something called area zoning, where their council assigned whole areas. This is mostly, and I can't explain it to you, but Greenville still does property by property. But some counties have what they call an area plan, and everything in this area is either going to be RR3 or RR1 or RS or something like that, with some commercial corridors or something. But you can download the Spartanburg ordinance and it'll explain that to you.
It also follows in Spartanburg, their comprehensive plan. I think you're probably familiar with comprehensive plan. Because that usually has a land use map that shows the various areas and the type of growth you want to see in the future. And that's what Spartanburg was using. Now, state law says they have to use that as consideration for zoning. What does consideration mean? It's not a requirement that dictates what zoning is, but some of the counties, York County, for instance, zoning is clearly based on the comprehensive plan. If you try to rezone in that county, the property doesn't match the comprehensive plan, is rejected. Some counties just ignore it because doesn't have regulatory authority by state law. But it depends on how the county wants to use that plan.
Let me ask one more question. So when you petition council. But if you go back to ask for a change to your zoning, is that before the zoning board of appeals, or is that still back to the county council?
Yes.
Both.
Okay. Some people go before the zoning appeal. I have a neighbor that tried this, that wanted to do shade tree mechanic. He's in RR3, out in the country. Went to zoning appeals because he was going to do something that was not allowed for RR3. And that situation ended up, zoning appeals rejected it, and he couldn't do it. However, we also have another neighbor who wanted to put a house trailer on property next to him. He was in RR3. So he wanted to go to RR1. Went to county council, they approved it. The one that for the shade tree mechanic, if he'd gone to county council, it would have been approved. But he chose the zoning appeals.
And how does the planning commission fit in?
Greenville County, quite frankly, doesn't follow the state law, okay? Title VI of the state law focuses on planning commission as the center of where zoning ordinances come from. And they can establish a committee, put them together, they can do it among themselves, and put a recommendation to council to approve or disapprove the zoning ordinance. Greenville County, the UDO I mentioned, there's now a lawsuit because they didn't use the right process. Staff wanted to change it. They had the UDO, got council to approve it, move forward with it, and planning commission wasn't even involved, which is the basis for that lawsuit. Yeah, state law does have some regulatory requirements on how you go about it.
Two examples. One with the county council and one went to the zoning board of appeals. Is, by state law, is that legal to get the zoning change with just county council's approval? Really?
Yes, we have a process that if you have a property, you want to change the zoning classification, you pay a certain amount of money depending on the size of the property. And it goes for staff with an application. That application goes to the planning commission, will have a public hearing. And then it goes before county council for first reading. The reason I'm familiar with this is we have one going through right now. First reading, then goes to planning commission for their approval or denial. And in Greenville County, if they deny it, county council has to approve it by a supermajority instead of a regular majority. County, if planning commission agrees with it, it goes before county council for their second, third readings. Yep, you can check. And one, if you look at the zoning map, there is a zoning map for Greenville County. You'll notice it's all patchwork in the center because everybody changed like lot by lot. In fact, if you look at the agenda for Greenville County, half the agenda is changing zoning by lots.
So does that, in your situation where you've got a Dollar General coming across the road and you don't like it?
Mhm.
Does that type of allowance hurt your cause because somebody across the street can have it rezoned at county council and then put the.
Well, you can get it rezoned, but once the Dollar General is there, they don't have to take the job Dollar General.
No, but I'm thinking about if somebody comes in and said, you know, they buy the property. Right now, it's a farm.
Yeah.
But they can just simply make the request to change it.
They can make a request to change it and fill out an application.
Then it
There's a
can become
public
residential.
hearing. That's usually within about 2 or 3 weeks after the application. He has to put a sign up 2 weeks before the public hearing, so everybody knows it's coming. And people come forward and give their reasons why they support it or they don't support it. And that's before county council and the planning commission. So that the commission and the elected officials hear what the public around it has. I have one that's about a quarter mile from where I live, wants to go from RR3 to RR1. It's RR3 all around it. We had 6 people show up before council Monday to say all the reasons why it should not be zoned RR1. Because everybody else is RR3. Quite frankly, the property is 3 acres. Everything around is 20+ acres.
So this is a great explanation right here. A good way for us to explain it to our people is if it's zoned, it goes through all those steps that Jim talked about. There's lots of opportunity for the public to be informed and understand it. If it's not zoned, the planning commission can approve it, and that's how the Dollar General's come in so fast that upset everybody so much.
Take your example, the Dollar General, if I'm zoned on my side of the road and the other side of the road's not zoned, that Dollar General can show up there and I don't even know it until they're scraping the ground.
Yeah, and we got nothing against Dollar Generals. We don't want that.
We had the same
I
situation.
don't mean to take away from Dollar General.
Nobody knew it was coming until it was,
Yeah.
ground was
If
broke.
it's not zoned, you don't know until the ground's broke. And even then, you gotta go ahead.
Yeah.
So explain a little bit more about the petition process. You said 60% in the district.
In our case, we did the petition. We had to have 10% of the, our group decided what area we wanted. Of course, we had polls and had an idea of what people wanted in the area. We took an area space, we went around and we had to get 10% of those people signing the petition. We take that to the county and that starts the process. After that, we had 4 months to put together a petition for that area where 60% of the landowners and 60% of the land that is owned. In other words, that prevents a bunch of small people, small landowners making it one way and prevents large landowners from making it. Okay. Once we had that, we go back to the county and they check the petitions and then it goes before county council for approval. But that takes 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get bit by a dog when you go and knocking on.
Yeah, yeah.
I want you to talk about zoning with me. What?
That's
Yeah,
before they shoot you, right?
The petition piece is the tough part.
So if you're in an area was rural, that's been hit hard with subdivisions, but the rural that's left wants to be left alone, how do you go about that?
You zone it. You get those people who are rural, that want to stay that way in Greenville County, get them to sign a petition. And if you can get more than 60% of them, they're zoned. And if you want to play the hardball, you can zone all the subdivisions too. That's the 40% that don't sign. And yes, we did that. People across the street from me, 50 acres, they want to be zoned. Everybody around them wanted to be zoned. They got zoned. Because it's petitions. 60% of the people want to be zoned.
Went door to door.
Door to door, yes.
And we had meetings in churches, when we had some places, if you want to sign a petition, please sign. So we did have a few where we would walk out with 40 signatures. That always felt so much better, but then we went around. We had 12 road captains. And we had monthly meetings,
Monthly meetings.
and everybody would report on what they were doing and what they were finding. And you could see the ones that were going to do it, and you could see, well, we better go out in that area. So Jim and I, we go help them in some of the roads, and so we would just manage to cover.
We kept our maps up to date on who had signed and who not.
And we'd get the county an update every 3 or 4 months. We'd go up there and tell them this is where we are, and we'd show them the petitions that were signed. And because they had never seen it either. They didn't know what to think either, so. It just helped to have a lot of volunteer.
Failed to do that, had there not been any zoning in Greenville County at all up to that point, would you?
No, if there hadn't been any zoning, we wouldn't have been able to do it.
Okay. So I don't mean that in a negative way.
But
No, that's a good
But
question.
if you don't have it, there's lots of good examples in the state. There's some good examples outside of the state to use. Like, we're just saying, don't use the UDO from Greenville because that's not very good. But York County, I understand, is pretty good. Beaufort County, I understand it's pretty good, but I'm not sure you want to use it because that entire county is zoned.
So if you, knowing what you know, and I know that you don't live in Spartanburg County, so this might not be a fair question to you. But knowing what you know and the way it's laid out, is it more beneficial in your opinion to have the patchwork property by property situation that you have in Greenville County? Or is it better, I'll use York, is it better to have the York comprehensive plan as the guide so that you don't have this patchwork, but this area that has been defined rural is gonna stay rural and no subdivision is gonna come in? Or vice versa?
An opinion, okay?
Yeah,
For zoning to work and to maintain character. Okay, I think that's one of the things you maybe want to think. You want to keep rural areas rural, industrial areas industrial, commercial areas commercial. You do it in a broad sense. You don't do it patchwork. In Greenville, however, the patchwork is in the middle of the, because someone wants to tear down a filling station and put up a Whataburger. Okay, that's a different classification. So you start seeing things like that. But there's a lot of them too. Put apartments up where there used to be filling stations or something else. So that kind of thing happens in those densely populated areas. But again, if you don't have anything and you got a chance, you can manage where the growth is. So that it meets whatever your desire is for the county.
Yeah, how I could see going forward, which would be that, I would say the simplest and easiest is get some of your county councilors. This is not a county council, is it? Okay.
We have one
Get-
here.
Okay, get some counselors involved and get a suggestion or a plan to zone the entire county. Have citizen involvement. Pick 6 or 8 areas in the county, like around the city of Lawrence, out in the very rural areas. Give them different areas and let those citizens say, we would like to have this type of area zoning like Spartanburg did, where if it's up here, if it's going to follow the comprehensive plan, if you have one, it's going to be approved pretty easily. If it's going to be different from the comprehensive plan, it's going to take all the approvals, which will slow down the Dollar General. But I think getting those area zones like that for the entire county would be a good target for you. It would be the least, you'd have some pushback, but I think it would work faster than anything else.
so here's the loaded question. Because I agree with you. Starting from scratch, so there's no zoning at all. To accomplish what you just said, in your opinion, how long a process do you spend educating?
I would take at least a year. I would have as many meetings in church parish halls, volunteer fire department state, say we've got a group here that wants to do some zoning, come on out and listen to the pros and cons and get ready for some hate. I've had people, I won't say never got hit, but I thought Doyle was gonna hit me in one of those meetings. I mean, it was just like, I can't believe you want this. It's the misconception of, oh, they're gonna be down there, they're gonna be sick. They don't like the way I'm burning my trash. They're gonna, but that's not it. I mean, you've got to get your county, tell you what they're gonna do, but you've got to represent it right, but it'll take you at least a year to open the eyes a little bit before you try to get it done. I mean,
Expect a lot of pushback at the start.
What you're trying to get people to understand is it's a zoning ordinance and not a homeowners association.
That's exactly right. And you don't want your zoning, I understand you don't have a lot of zoning ordinances. You don't want your zoning ordinances to look like homeowners association. Either. Because our UDO has some of that.
Yep.
And above all, opinion, whatever you do with your zoning ordinances, handle the infrastructure problems. Put that part of it. Because our UDO, our past council didn't want it in there, the new council does. And the zoning ordinance is a place you can start handling some of those infrastructure issues.
Get my ignorance, but what is RUDO? Is that what you're saying?
Unified Development Ordinance, several of the counties in the state, I'm putting them together. Edgefield County's got one going together. I think some of the counties along the coast have already got theirs together. Say Greenville took 4 years to put together what we got, which is not very good.
it's only 386 pages, dog. It's not-
No, it's 650 pages. It was supposed to make it shorter, but didn't. But that's how homeowners association stuff got stuck in there. Stuff that shouldn't be in there.
You have any questions? I think the one thing that I hear the most when I'm talking to people, the first thing out of their mouth, they usually say, don't remember now, we're not Greenville.
And we're not suggesting it be Greenville.
So the people in our county have been noticing the growth and lack of control at some point, right?
Well,
The other thing I really appreciate y'all dwelling on is the fact that we have a lot of education work to do. It sounds like that's fundamental to working out in a long range plan here. We have some people in the county with strong opinions, and that's fine. So the education part is gonna be very important to us. And I thank y'all for coming. And I'm one that needs the education. I'll start with me. That was the reason I asked y'all to come first. I'm not aware of all the different types of zoning. And, I have watched this for a good while, and I've watched both Greenville and York. You mentioned York, and, I've been looking at this, and I'm involved off and on now for many years. And you go back to York County 50 years ago, it was real similar to Lawrence, rural county, two major cities. The city that was not the county seat had a higher education facility, bedroom to community to Charlotte. Charlotte just started growing for it. But they seem to have done a pretty good job. So thank you for the information. You know, we love for y'all to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if y'all need to get on back, we understand. And, again, thank y'all for coming.
You got any other
Very
questions?
informative.
Other questions, speak to Nancy, because she can get a hold of us.
Thank you.
very much.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Good luck.
appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, moving on along, a little bit of housework here. One of the jobs, we have to assign a vice chairman and a secretary of the committee. And Ms. Nancy Garrison has agreed to serve as vice chairman. And Alan Lawson has agreed to serve as secretary. He'll be doing all our minutes from now on. He'll present the Cheyenne, email them out to everybody. One of the, duties that I've asked Ms. Garrison to hold is the coordinator for our community input meetings. So, she'll kind of be the one heading that up for us. And that'll come up a little later in the discussion here. Trying to move along here, to move on to our mission statement, which we started discussing last month. And, anybody have anything they'd like to say about that?
I'll put some thoughts.
You want there? Yeah, you want.
I think I'm pretty sure what we said last time was seek community input to help define the county's growth, development, community preservation. Had somebody say the word preservation sometimes insinuates that there's a lack of change. So my suggestion was to seek citizen input to identify the desired growth, development, and distinct characteristics for the various communities in within Lawrence County. Because I think that's what we were trying to say. What if it's farm area, rural area, let's leave it rural area. So that was my only suggestion. You repeat it. There you go. There you go. Take a look at this.
That's what the other one.
Wow.
I put a little bit of thought into it over the last couple of weeks also. And, I was more focused on just, one or two sentences. To get us one there. And, what I came up with was kind of a combination of all of this. It says, focusing on the future using responsible land practice. Didn't want to start out with the word management in it, but, I thought about it more management. It's kind of like a HOA type word, so I didn't want to do that. But, does anybody else have anything?
I have more than just looking at keywords we talked about, things like that. Look at it. I mean, it's longer than 2 cents, but I thought, there's some keywords in there.
The comment. Bobby, I like what you came up with. I think it's, your. I like the wording, to identify the desired growth, development, and distinct characteristics. That's just,
Like it off of it. To, pretty much describe what our duties are.
And I like what sorry, horrible thing. Now, I like what you said, but, in all what you're saying in that, very much so. But I guess as a mission statement that it probably needs to be shorter, yeah. Am I correct in saying that probably?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do like kind of what Bobby had come up with too, that kind of says it kind of this short and sweet kind of way.
You want me to remember, it's gotta be real short.
Yeah.
Thing to hear, leaning toward, Bobby's input here on the mission statement, which is clear and short. Hear anybody make a motion? I make a motion. I will say that, Bob. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We now have mission statement.
Mr. Chairman, just so I can be clear for the record, we're adopting the mission statement using the language that Mr. Smith proposed. Fantastic.
You haven't got me that way.
Just letting you know.
Now we're to our next biggest task in front of us is public input meetings. And we discussed at the last meeting, we said we were gonna have 7, minimum of 7, 1 in each district. And we're trying to get started as soon as possible. There again, Miss Nancy's in charge of this particular area, so I'm gonna turn it over to her.
Well, I guess I'm the one that's gonna be going first too, so I'm gonna be the guinea pig on this. But I was trying to come up with ideas as to how to go about this, and we had possibly thought, just talking about the first meeting, possibly being as early if we could make it work, April 10th. You know, I talked with Sean Bell up in Fountain Inn and talked with Wes about the fact it was okay if it was over the Greenville County line. And so, you know, if we can line down that date, that'll be great. We'll just see him, which I know we're gonna try to work on the schedule too, as whole meetings, and stuff like that, if that was a possibility. But I kind of had the idea of this process being a little bit similar to what we saw with the comprehensive plan. I thought that was a pretty good idea where they had the certain boards, like I had talked about last time, and with certain statements on it, with the people could make comment on that and give their feeling, you know, put their name and address and everything on there. And that, you know, gave them a place to actually where it was written, so that we could also, we got to collect all this information and how people feel, you know, can't remember it all and what they say in public comment. But, and just have the subject matter, whenever we come up with subject matters for different things for people to comment on. I thought it'd be good that maps that we do have, you know, in the comprehensive plan, that we could have hopefully a large type map to be on display, showing, you know, that we have, you know, where it talks about the smart growth area, that particular map. You know, it might even help to have the map of where y'all talk about that you have infrastructure and stuff like that, and where that's available and not available yet and stuff like, in that manner, to have something like that. And also, the land use map that's on there, is that like our current land? I mean, do we have a true current, is that the true current land use map that we have?
The one that's attached to
To the comprehensive plan, and of course have that enlarged, being able to sit there for people to see. And then I was gonna see about having some representatives, like I talked to Mark Willis about coming as a state representative, because it's in our district, and he said he'd be glad to. That will be it, if the date works out for him, I'm sure. You know, I would like my district councilman to be there. If I can get him there, I'd like to get Kim to be there. And hopefully maybe somebody from the school board, which I think Robbie has talked about, different people from the school board, and actually and if y'all want to be involved also in that, that would be great. And actually let the public have time to comment or ask questions to them, because we're not supposed to be giving an opinion on what we think. You know, this is all going to be public comment. and people that are in official positions to be able to maybe answer or thought, give their thoughts back to what people ask. That was kind of my thought process of what I would like to see a meeting kind of be. And try to get as many representatives and people of that, know things that could answer those questions when people ask them and stuff like that. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but that's my thoughts on that.
Y'all are aware.
I'm hoping Fountain Civic Center, I've talked to Sean Bell, that's gonna be a good one.
What boards were you talking about?
The school board, you see that all the time,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I didn't understand how you were talking about getting their feedback.
I like display boards.
Yeah.
Yes, so like when we went to the comprehensive plan, we'd have there'd be a subject matter, how do you feel about this or this, that, and the other, on a big board.
Like a whiteboard?
Yeah, big, huge
Okay.
whiteboard, and people could make comment and
Okay.
write on that, and they
Okay.
would put their name and address, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know, just you remember going to the comprehensive plan.
So what we had in Fountain Inn, Fountain Inn is redoing the zone. We went to a meeting. Again, it started out with public comment. And then they had 4 or 5 little breakout sessions where, there would be a subject and there'd be a whiteboard, there would be paper or pencil. And someone maybe stationed there.
They were, but I'm not talking about getting into that, I mean, that would be kind of, because we're not supposed to be giving our opinion on it. We're just trying to get public input.
So there would be 4 or 5 different stations with whiteboards, and people could come up and put their ideas on, about that specific subject.
So they have both public comment and you could write it.
Right, and then they could write their comment down either on the board or a piece of paper, and then we would have actual hard information from the public.
My question is, where did we get that kind of supplies?
Well, weren't
Second
they big
thing.
flip papers? So it wasn't like a dry erase board like you're thinking, it's a
Okay.
big paper like you would
Okay.
see in an art class. and you-
Something high tech.
It wasn't even a
Okay.
poster board, it was big paper. And you could flip it, like if this page got full, you just flip that to the back. and then you
Okay.
write on
Or
it.
you could just have a notebook, you could just have a legal pad, doesn't have to be anything fancy.
How about a specific email designated just for this?
Let's give them your email.
I'm talking about creating one.
No.
They're already, to speak to that, we already have one.
Do
We have one established since the last meeting,
it? Okay.
and,
That was just a thought.
It is good thought, that people
Yeah.
that can't get out to the meetings or whatever,
Oh.
they can email in and make
And
comments
some
with that.
people won't feel comfortable. Some people are a little more reserved, they would give us a little more input into an email as well. Just another option. We can have them both.
Absolutely.
we're talking about a telephone line also.
Oh, really?
Call me.
Go ahead.
Because a lot of the older folks, are computer savvy. So, and we want as much input as possible. So, anything anybody can come up with, make it easier, we all use.
One's, I guess, let me preface it with, first of all, my experience is the more you can take emotion out of the conversation, the more productive the conversation will be. I think we have to be real careful because we've already said the name is going to create possibly tension, which will get people there, but if you open up a public comment, you may have just gotten off on it.
Well, that's not my schedule.
That's just
I mean, he was talking about how Fountain Inn done it, but my thought is let people come in and start, and maybe it'll allow more people to kind of flow in. Let them start filling out those things and look at those things, and then allow that a little bit later on towards certain representatives that are there and everything else, like I said, because we're not supposed to kind of have an opinion on it. I mean, I guess I'm assuming we're not, we don't, that's not our job. It's just
No,
our,
but I
but,
think, I think to earn the trust of the people there.
Mhm.
Because if we can't earn their trust, they're not gonna talk to us.
correct, yeah.
And so I think in order to earn the trust, instead of it being a blank slate, we do have a comprehensive plan. And in that comprehensive plan, I put some of those on this form. The county identified certain goals that they wanted to see by elements. But there's certain goals by land use that they've identified. Maybe that's the talking point that we put up there to say, this is what the county has identified. What are your thoughts on these goals? So that it's not just a blank slate for somebody to say, I hate zoning.
Right.
And then I would think, maybe you can, Matthew's not here, maybe if we're tying it to what they have defined the goals to be, that is more helpful feedback for them. To tying it all together, maybe, I don't know. There's a bunch of elements, and maybe those are, maybe we choose a handful or look and see if we can address those elements and those goals on those boards. And that may be a way to get feedback. And to me, that takes some of that emotion out of it.
Right.
It's just simply, what are your thoughts on these things?
Right. Yeah, and that's what, you know, the subject matter I wasn't sure about just yet. That's a good thing because I didn't know what that was exactly gonna look like. So great idea.
And I think I emailed that to everybody, so you should have a copy of that.
My emails are being really funny right now. I'm not getting any. It's like last night at 1 a.m. and I'm not sure what's going on.
Make some copies, make lists.
Yeah. Try to change the password and everything. I don't know what's going on with it.
We're talking about gathering all this information and we really have a short time to do it. According to our meeting last month, we're going to present a preliminary report to county council in September. And summer's coming. So a lot of people will be traveling and vacationing with their children and just not gonna have this focus on their brain first priority, I would think. So we're gonna need to do this pretty fast. That's the reason we started the April the 10th is the first possible day that we can have one because of legal parameters that go along with it. So we'll start right after that. And the types of meetings, when we don't have to set one type for every community. You know, the meeting in Fountain Inn is going to be a whole different set of topics probably than a meeting in Mountain. And so we don't, in other words, what I'm saying, we can progress as these meetings go on and adapt them to the region of our community. And because if we're gonna go to Mountain, we'll talk about apartments. Ain't nobody gonna show up. We go to Fountain Inn and talk about apartments, we might have 100 people, who knows? So these ideas aren't set in stone. We can evaluate them as we go and make changes accordingly. Now, Casey, your precinct would be second, or district would be second. Just for y'all's knowledge, I'm not promoting this anyway, but I have already contacted both school districts and representatives from both school districts, and somebody will come before us and speak to us, represent both school districts. And the schools have been made available to us, assuming our dates are work with them. So I'm not saying we have to use schools by any stretch. I'm just saying that they're available. You see the top four, if you look at the county map as a whole, the top four districts are pretty close together. They're right in the top of the county and they all share a lot of boundary lines. You know, another thing, I don't know who's gonna come to these meetings and how we're gonna participate, but we don't want a meeting loaded up like we've got a bunch of angry folks in Fountain Inn. We don't want them to come to Mountain and dominate the meeting. We'd rather people from the community, which we're meeting in, go first. And then if we got time, we'll let the people outside the district talk. I don't know the proper way to handle all that.
Register my driver's license.
I mean, I trust people, you know,
We'll let Wes check them in the door.
yeah, and I'm hoping we'll have a sign-in sheet. And another thing, and it might be too much work, but everybody that gets up and makes a comment or makes a comment of some sort, I feel like deserves some type of answer. If it's just one line saying we appreciate your input, thank you, we look forward to hearing from you again. We don't, because at this time, this committee has no opinion on anything. So like Nancy said earlier, we're not there to tell anybody what we think, because we have no thoughts at this time. So it's all input, data gathering. But, it's gonna be quite a task to get it done and put together in 6 months. If we have 2-3 meetings a month, it'll take till the end of July just to get that done.
Wouldn't be the first government thing that was postponed.
But I like the first thing that was postponed.
I'm not saying on our part, I just, it forces us to.
And it
It's
might,
important
scheduling,
to be
because scheduling will dictate,
I'll go on the record. I know this is not our place. But minimum of a year to sell the idea of zoning, it might be 2 years.
I agree.
And so I think we have to be careful what we deliver and how. So that we don't make it look like this is a 6-month, ram it down, somebody's gonna take this thing and run with it.
Right.
And there's gotta be a process after this to tell everybody and get that thing right.
The input should dictate our time frame as we go.
Oh,
That's our goal right now, September. The input may change that.
oh yeah, like I said, all of it's subject to change, but that's our goal at this point. And that was actually prescribed by county council, not by us. I would have asked for a year. And I think more what he was said, 2 years is gonna be closer to the realistic time of this, and if we do it 2 years, even it's gonna be a good job. Because the education point of this and making people understand what we're doing, it's just gonna be an uphill battle. And everybody has to know that their input is just as important as anybody else's, or it won't make it.
Referendum. Be November 26th before anything can happen.
I don't think we'd have anything ready for it. About November.
No, 26.
Oh, 26.
It gives you almost 2 years.
Anybody else have any suggestions on the format of the meeting? Mainly what I was hoping we could iron out, or y'all want to go, since Miss Nancy had the first one, y'all want to try this one out, see how it works?
I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
I do too.
I'm more request to work with her closely on it, because I would, do we have to meet again before I set the date for the one I'm gonna do?
No.
Okay, so if we can get this going, I can proceed with that.
All you have to do is coordinate through Miss Nancy. Everybody's that way.
Okay.
Everybody. No, we only have to, well, I understand it legally is, announce meetings and do the same thing we do with regular meeting as far as notifications. Okay, is that right? So they do not require a vote, the dates do not require a vote.
Okay.
And the style of the meeting does not require a vote. So we have complete control.
No newspaper announcement, 24 hours long.
Oh, yes, all that.
Do you have that email address? Well, I do.
It is land use at co.lawrence.sc.us.
Say that one more time.
Sure. Land use
Uh-huh.
at co.lawrence.sc.us.
Got it, thank you.
And who, I'm assuming the office is monitoring.
Yes, but we will get you guys access to where y'all can access that email as well. I should confirm that.
Everybody on the committee will have access to it.
So Wes, can I ask you, do you have any input on what we were kind of saying as like how those meetings we were talking about? Do you see any problem with that or anything like that as far as what it was talking about, as far as the public meetings?
I would just urge caution at the public comment section. You don't want it to become back and forth. Because that happens, that's a council meetings, and so we have one person up there for 10 minutes and the other person gets 30 seconds. So I think that the way that I've seen it work in the past is the best is that you offer your comments to the public. When that public comment section is over, you try to answer any questions that you can, thank everyone for their speech. But if you try to do that with each individual person, it's going to drag out your public comment section and it's going to eat up your whole meeting. So I would just limit it to 3 minutes a speaker, and then after the public comment section is over, I would then try to answer any questions that were raised during the public comment section.
Yeah, that was another reason I said earlier about like possibly responding to each person some way too. Because as a committee, I said it earlier, we have no opinion. So we can't give an answer because we don't have them. We don't have any kind of a appeals process. We don't have anything. So everybody needs to understand that our only purpose is so the people can voice their opinion. And we'll keep it. As long as I haven't got anybody to argue with. It's hard to argue when you say them.
Fire won't burn without oxygen.
And anybody else on that note? All right, Miss Nancy, you in charge, keep us informed.
Okay.
Small task.
Yeah.
Small task.
Well, I definitely say this, everybody start thinking of dates just as quick as you can from here on out. And, so that we can get it moving and just,
Now, one thing I do want to say about facilities, if we go into like a fire department or anything like that, the county at this point, the way I understand it, we don't have any help setting up sound systems, chairs, or any of that. So, if you pick a place that's needing these, material things done, we'll either have to do them ourselves. We'll have to, maybe it's fire department, we could get volunteer firemen or something to help us with it. But that does need to be considered when we're picking these locations. Also on this, one thing that's been mentioned was streaming these community meetings live, YouTube, and recording. And the recording, a lot of it will be for us so that we can go through and gather information off of as after it's over. But that has not been totally worked out at this point because the same thing would apply. We would have to provide the technical expertise at remote locations to do that.
I spoke to our IT department regarding that. Live streaming from remote locations is probably not going to be possible. However, if we can record the meetings, we can then upload them to the county's YouTube page. Anyone who wasn't able to attend the meeting can then go look at it. And we can also get some resources that you have the ability to record it from the county.
Yeah, we just have to work through this on a case by case, location by location basis. And that's why the coordination of all this is going to be real important, make it run smoothly for sure. And I want to thank you for accepting that responsibility.
Yeah, like I said, I will be the guinea pig, so we'll see how it goes.
Sure, I just thinking. Things. Your area, I think we know who's gonna turn out. I would say the same for you. You kind of agree on it, right? I'm thinking about District 4. That's the city of Lawrence. And it's Mountain. That's two different groups of people. That district is large, diverse. I think we need to think long and hard, and I think 5 is gonna be worse than 4, because it runs, if I'm not mistaken, north part of Clinton, all that Greenville. You've got a large parcel area with diverse groups of people in that. It's not gonna be easy to go to a Fountain Inn Civic Center and get a small area with a lot of people. You got a large area with the same amount. I'm thinking out loud, that we might need to think about how we do that. It might need to be a couple of meetings, somewhere.
Well, at our last meeting, one of the things that we mentioned was 7 district meetings and then 2 at large. And, like your district, for example, you might want to have your regular meeting in Mountville, and then we have a large meeting in the city to service both groups. And, we're gonna run into a similar situation in Plum.
Right.
So we have 2, from the conversation last month, we have 2 meetings that we can pinpoint target areas that we feel like aren't getting serviced right. So, and even 7 or 9 meetings, that's not set in stone.
Right.
By no stretch. We might get going and, you know, this thing hit a roll and we decide to have 10 or 12, who knows? But I think 7 is the minimum number that we should have. And then I think targeting areas is a good idea. It's really gonna be interesting to me to see how much city people get involved. Because they're gonna be, if it ends up a public referendum, you know, that'll be most of your votes, city of Lawrence. And they're already hundreds. But, yeah, that's a point well taken, and I think we should do that. And you make the decision which one you want to have first in your district, that's what we'll do. Yeah, you know, I can't say this enough, we can change on the fly. The next thing on the agenda is schedule monthly meetings. This would be in addition to our public meetings. I would like to have a schedule because I'm gonna try to get speakers for about like we had tonight, for about 15 or 20 minutes to come in on different aspects of this, so we can be more educated, or I can. I got a lot. And it would make it easier with scheduling if we had a regular meeting or either a schedule, doesn't have to be the same night every month. But just a schedule would make it simpler by lining up different things. And if we happen to have a public meeting that falls on the night of a regular meeting, we can either reschedule the regular meeting to another night because of facilities availability is going to dictate these public influence a lot. As soon as school's out, we won't have any trouble in schools. But till then, you know, we would have to work with them, and it's going to be the same with every group.
Still open for you.
Yes.
Is one meeting a month enough for us?
That's for us to decide. That's all. I would think a minimum.
I'm sorry. go ahead.
We planned one of mine, and if something comes up, we can always.
Oh, yeah, we can have a call, work session. You know, because we might have a speaker that we're gonna learn more about than what he's able to tell us in a few minutes, and we call a work session, yeah, that's always an option to do that.
If we've got to be the ones gathering the data, then it might help us have time to actually be able to do some of that too through what we're kind of seeing, you know, through the public meetings, yeah. So.
If we're trying to get our information together as quickly as possible, would it be reasonable to think to try, like if Nancy, the first meeting's on the 10th, maybe 2 weeks later, Casey's next, because we spread out at once a month, then we got 7 months of just trying to get the meetings in.
So I make
Now, these meetings I'm talking about are our regular scheduled meetings, not the input meetings.
Right. You want to do it closer than.
Yeah, it's gonna, that's gonna be my goal. Yeah, I'm talking within days of hers. If I can make that.
Well, I think in y'all's case, I've looked at the map, and in y'all's case, y'all's are gonna have a lot of overlapping cares, concerns, all that. So, if somebody misses in Fountain Inn, they can come to Green Pond. And it's gonna, as we come lower in the county, I think the community concerns are gonna change and sort of be grouped, just like I'm 5. Well, most 5 is rural. And it runs up down Spartanburg County line. But the meetings I'm talking about are our monthly meetings where, for example, Miss Nancy can say, this is the information we gathered from the previous 2 meetings. Everybody, instead of getting it all at once, we kind of digest this information as it comes in. Yeah. So does any time stand out over any other time?
It can't be the second Monday or the third Tuesday of a month.
This is the third Thursday, I'm just looking at my calendar, that seems to be good for me.
That was what I was gonna suggest, was the third Thursday.
The next one will be on the 17th.
That were
I'm on the watershed board and I'm missing a meeting with them right now. I went by there and seen that
third Thursday.
Yeah, it's gonna be on the 17th.
Casey has a conflict with that night. Anybody else want to make a suggestion? What about the third Tuesday?
No, can't do that, that's planning commission. They got that. The 24th.
That would be 2 weeks from these.
By then, we might have two of our public meetings in fact, which will be outstanding.
When you see?
24th,
Yeah.
that work?
Do with Bobby, do with me. And
Probably the fourth Thursday.
24th,
That'll be
yeah.
it.
And that be the, basically the 4th Thursday.
I hear a motion that we meet on April 24th. So. Second. So, all in favor, say aye. The next, thing on our agenda is just kind of an open-end discussion. What anybody would like to see the meeting accomplish, how we gonna get there. Your thoughts, but the more we all know about each other and what we're thinking, the better we're gonna be to work together as a team. This is gonna be a team effort, believe me. Get through with this, we don't think we played too much. Coach, take me out. Put me in. So any discussion whatsoever, any concerns, any directions they'd like to see the committee go in. Got quiet now.
I think it's just a good start to hopefully get the community involved of Lawrence County to see what their opinion and ideas are where Lawrence County's going. And I just hope this is gonna be, I know there's gonna be confusion about it sometimes or whatever it may be, but I just hope this will be something that will be extremely helpful to the county to, make things go in a way that is not the way that things going exactly, but.
I think it's good that we're starting where we're starting in our district. Because that's, seems to be the hotbed for growth right now. And that could be other districts' future. And it's not necessarily, the way things are going isn't necessarily a good thing.
Well, it is other districts' future, around the Clinton area. I've heard the city manager down there say recently there were 1,000 houses under some type of phase of permitted construction in the city of Clinton.
Wow.
So, people come.
And, and I think too, and I've said all along through me coming and everything, it's not that I want to see growth stop. I mean, that's not our mission either by any means. It's just that it can be done maybe in a more responsible manner than what did first occur, when we really got hit boom, all of a sudden. So,
Control versus chaos.
right. Yeah.
Well, I think these subdivisions have scared a lot of people. And, if you go look at them and actually see them, you can understand why.
The neighbors across the street from us live in a big old giant nice house. And they just had their dog get out. And then, I mean, this is like almost a $700,000 home. They've been in a month. Their dog got out. And then a few days later, their dog came out and their 5-year-old followed the dog out trying to stop the dog. And the man, I went over today and introduced myself. Because I stopped the dog and the kid from coming in the road. I stopped the traffic. And they're like, our door won't stay shut. The dog just bumps and then the door flops open. So, I mean, this is a $700,000 house that is poorly built. I mean, that just is mind boggling to me.
Well, another thing we really never mentioned are mobile homes. It's been, I know back in the 90s, a lot of these mobile homes, folks like Kent Galt and different companies were coming into Lawrence County buying farms. Not to necessarily develop them right now, but to get them before we had zoning so they could develop. I actually dealt with a situation like that personally, right next door to me. And I was just lucky enough to where I knew about it in advance and I was able to purchase the land. And I tell people all the time, we got zoning in Lawrence County. Go buy it and do what you want to with it. But a lot of people can't participate in that type of stuff.
Not when it's $22,000 an acre. Or more.
And another thing I see, I'm out about in the county area.
Yeah.
And another thing I see that's alarming to me are people that are living in camp, permanent residents. And I even know where one is close to me, where people live in an old school bus. And they run a county water line to it this week.
All the little campervilles too that are coming up, where there's a whole little group of camper livers. That's mind boggling to me.
So there's a lot of different aspects to what we're gonna be. It's not just gonna be subdivisions.
Right.
And that we're gonna have to consider here, because our bottom line here, in my opinion, is to make it to where our grandchildren proud to live here and can make a living wage living. And that's the ultimate goal of this, as I see it. Our futures are kind of set. But our grandchildren and generations not to be, that hadn't even been born. And I'm a historical person, I like history, and so I'm a big believer that, the people that came before us sacrificed and did a lot of work to get us to where we are now. And that needs to be maintained to the level that we decide as a community, not a committee.
Right.
That it needs to be maintained. And, so actually, I'm looking forward to it. I know it's a lot of work, but I feel like that we're publicly talking about something that's been kicked under the rug for decades here. And I'm glad to see it. Proud to be a part of it. How do you feel? Said we'd get out of here by 7:30. We're gonna make it. Do we have anyone from the public might like to make a comment tonight? Jeff?
Real quick, just we'll take a second. I appreciate y'all doing this and working, going through this effort, and thank you for allowing us to be involved wherever we can be. As we've said many times, planning is really important for us as a utility, so we can kind of predict what our needs are. But a couple of thoughts as I'm listening, trying to figure out a way to get different organizations maybe to get involved in the process. I don't know if maybe one of your 2 countywide meetings is a great place where there might be a panel from different organizations where we can answer anybody's questions or concerns. And maybe up front, we all do a few minute, comment about how it's good, bad, and different for our organizations, and then just sit up there. Maybe even have a few pre-prepared questions to get the ball rolling. And if you're doing that on the back end, you might learn kind of some of the hot topic issues we need to make sure we cover. That's one thought. Some of the feedback you might get along the way, either via email or just through different county social media sites. We'll be monitoring that to make sure we try to address concerns, but if y'all get something that may not be out there that you think is really important that we cover, we would appreciate it at some point that we know. So we make sure we cover all of that. If you need us to speak at one of these meetings, we can do that as well as you start to line up that schedule. Sounds like the comp plan may be somewhat of a guiding document, at least start at the beginning. So we'll make sure we're prepared to know, where we plug into the comp plan as that as well. And then the last thing is, don't forget about Lake Greenwood. It probably goes across a couple of different districts as the water source for this county. We want to make sure that we do what we can to protect Lake Greenwood throughout the process. That's it. Thank you.
Definitely protect our water source.
Absolutely. We would appreciate that.
Oh, I remember my uncle told me a long, long time ago, as a child, he said, one day you're gonna see it where water's worth more than gold.
We like to treat it that way.
Well, thank you, Jeff, appreciate it.
So just don't charge it that way.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Hearing nothing else, do I have a motion for adjournment? So, all in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you a lot.